All the anime on this list are anime that I have personally watched and watched to completion. If it's not on the list, I didn't watch it. That's all you need to know. Got it? Okay, here we go. Hi, I'm Anime Mixer1, AM1 for short, and as usual, I'm here to bring you the news of what you should have watched from the season of anime that has passed, because I don't like to judge what is to come before it's actually done, because you might get something brilliant that everybody thinks is going to be terrible, and you might get something that everybody thinks is going to be terrific, but actually turns out to be bullshit. And I have to start off with this list is something I think was absolute bullshit. The Reflection. The Reflection was sort of a weird thing at first because it has Stan Lee working on it, which already makes me think, okay? I mean, for the most part, probably brilliant man when it comes to superhero comics and movies and stuff. Anime, not so much as this shows, because the animation is weird, storytelling is weird, and it just ends with a Deus Ex Machina schoolgirl save the day, because that's what anime do. That's not really a spoiler, by the way, because I'm not advising you see it, I'm just saying that's what happens, and that's all you need to know. But otherwise, it's been actually quite an amazing season. The Reflection was the worst part of it for me. I didn't watch anything that I personally considered worse, that was just the bad one. We had some that were okay, and one of them was Hinalogy from Luck and Logic. Now this is a sequel to the original Luck and Logic, which I thought was, frankly, quite bad. It was messy storytelling, bad action, and in the end everything was just a harem for the main character in that one. In this one, however, all the characters are just cute girls, and they're at school, and they just happen to have some sort of superpower. With the setting placed in the original, it's quite easy to get into it if you watch that, and it's actually just quite cute and fun for the most part. There's nothing overly brilliant about it, but you know what? I smiled while watching it. I'm not gonna absolutely suggest you watch it, but it is quite refreshing and just lighthearted and fun for the most part. As is, by the way, New Game, which also is just girls having a good time for the most part, but in this case, they're also working professionally for making a game. And I know what you're thinking, hang on, New Game, that wasn't this season, was it? It is, it was the second season this time, and the second season was better than the first season. And I love it when second seasons are better than the original one. And the thing is, New Game, the original season, it was okay, but it was just a moe blob. They didn't focus so much on the actual work of making the game, which was what I wanted to see! This time they focus so much more on the actual making of the game, the troubles and tribulations they go through, as well as some very major character points and developments that happen that are actually very interesting to watch. So this gets a thumbs up from me, especially if you've seen the first season. I don't think you actually have to see the first season to watch this, because it gives some character background, but otherwise I don't think you miss out much, but you should probably watch both if you're interested. But it's very heavily on moe blob, and there's one thing I don't like about the second season. It starts going a little bit more heavily into the fan service of various characters. Just so much at time. Just unscrupulously just shoving people into fan service situations for no other reason than to have fan service. And I don't mind a little bit of fan service, but it's so blatantly just for fan service. And if that's what they think has to sell the series, I pity the makers of this series. And since we're on a roll speaking of girls, Princess Principal. Princess Principal has a very spectacular opening. Let's just get that out of the way. It's a fantastic opening. As for the content, it's a little bit weird because the episodes are shown non-chronologically. You start with what is essentially episode 13, and then you go to episode 1 and 2, and then you go like to episode, I don't remember, like 8, and you go to 6, and then you go to... And I thought at first, okay, so they start with the end and then go on, because they actually, in the episodes, they show the case number. So this is the case number that this pack of girls actually work on, because they're spies, they do stuff. But then it goes past 13 case number, and at the end it's like at like case number, I think 24 or 26, maybe it was 20, I don't remember, like from the top of my head, it was just 20 something. And that tells to me this might originally have been planned as a 2-season series, but then got cut to 1, because there's a lot of case numbers just missing in between, and I don't like that. It's an odd choice, certainly. But it's actually a very good series if you like spy series, because even though it's cute girls, it's actually kind of dark, the action is good, and the story is good. Sorry. I got something in my throat. You can't see my throat because of the beard, but that's it. Now, before I almost choked myself, as I was saying, it has good characters, good story, good everything, and it actually goes quite darker than you'd think from the art style. These undercover girls doing spy work is a very thrilling adventure, and while very episodic, it has a very good underlying story underneath, which I quite like. I would recommend this to people who are into anime in general, but if you just want more of the, watch anime once in a while, this might not be for you, it depends on your taste specifically. If you like just to watch cute girls, then that's not a problem. All the girls are cute. But speaking of art styles that deceive you, oh boy, Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is probably one of the best series from this season. When I watched the first episode, I thought, oh, this is just gonna be the children going on a happy adventure, and they're gonna be so fun, and things are gonna be all rosy, and whatever danger they find is just gonna be some minor thing, which for children is hugely dangerous, but for most other people, it's eh. But no, this actually goes real dark, real fast. Already at the first episode, they have some adult-oriented jokes, but I thought, it's anime, they do that. But then the main meat of the story actually happens, and it gets so intense. I don't want to spoil this for you because you have to watch it. It ends on a kind of a cliffhanger, but not really. I mean, it's nothing we haven't seen much worse before, and what we get is absolutely amazing. Just be warned about one thing. Episode 10. That gets so intense. I watched it, I was like, I was genuinely, physically going, oh, no, this is not happening, no, what the, no? That's basically what I did, and I wish I had live streamed that or something, because that was an absolute weird thing to experience, especially from something with, as I said, that childish art style. It just deceives you and then pulls you in and then just shucks you out of nowhere. Such a good series, watch it. At this point you might need something a little bit more lighthearted, and at this point I would suggest you Nanamaru Sanbatsu, or Quiz the Animation, or whatever you want to call it in English. The point is, it's a show about people doing competitive quiz. This is more of a personal one for me, because I quite like quizzes. I like the sort of learning from just picking stuff up randomly. You're at a quiz, you hear a question and you don't know the answer, but it actually sounds very interesting, and then you get the answer and you go, oh, now I know that. And this quiz show is just riddled with it. Nanamaru Sanbatsu just pushes in that knowledge on you, but you're loving every moment of it because the characters are actually quite good. And the story is interesting, and it's almost like a sports anime, but the sport is quiz. It can get really intense, but it's just so much fun and enjoying to watch. But even I have to admit that the voice acting sometimes sounded underwhelming at best. And that's just really sad for me, because I hear the voices and I figure that, they are probably professionals, but I think maybe they got someone new here. I'm not much into the specific details of anime like that. I don't really care much about studios, voice actors, directors, stuff like that. I care about the finished product. What is the finished product? What does it look like? And sometimes the voices just sound like they were almost like slapped in their last moment. They didn't really think about who's doing the voice, just somebody has to do the voice, and they sound bored, they sound unenthusiastic, they just don't feel like they are fit for the character. Something just feels wrong so many times. There could be various reasons for that, but despite it, I actually quite liked Nanamaru Sanbatsu, and I hope you will too. Another anime which tickled my fancy, personally, was Vatican Kiseki Chosakan, or Vatican Miracle Examiners. Being a Christian, though not Catholic, I got quite into the idea of, oh, these guys are out and investigating whether or not the things that are claimed to be miracles are actually miracles, and what it turns out to be is a very good crime show. It has a few longer story arcs within the series, and each of them has smaller mysteries within them that they always need to solve before they actually manage to solve the bigger mystery. And it gets really interesting, I think, but it's very heavy on religious and cultist and such aspects, so I don't think this one is for everybody. Also, the storytelling isn't always the best, and I think that at some point it just didn't know what it was doing. It just sort of Deus Ex Machinas itself out of some situations. Somehow the characters know something. So it's not completely good as a mystery, but it is quite exciting to watch. And if you can live with all the religious references, cult references, and just blatantly historically wrong references, because I can admit that it has a lot of wrong information in it if you want to look at it from a real life perspective, then it's actually very enjoyable. But again, it tickled my fancy personally as a Christian, and if you're not Christian, you might go, oh, Christian, an anime, oh, I'm done over that. And you don't have to hate on it, just tell me you don't want to watch it and move on. I'm not forcing anybody to watch it. It's not preaching to you or anything, it's just trying to be a mystery show with a Christian theme. But if you just don't want to watch something because it has Christian themes, guess what? You probably shouldn't watch Fate Apocrypha either, because that has a lot of Christian references. I mean, the Fate series in general has some Christian references riddled throughout it. I mean, the freaking church is overseeing the war for the Grail. But Fate Apocrypha seems to go off the beaten path and just spin off from Fate Stay Night. What it does is basically make an alternate reality, so it seems it might be trying to go Marvel, who knows? But this time the war has changed because it's not a 7 people battle royale all fighting for the Grail. This time there are 2 sides, each with 7 servants, and they are fighting for the Grail. Of course, shit goes down and stuff happens, and I'm quite further into the series than just the 12-13 episodes of this past season, because I make this video in the future! But it's quite interesting how some characters have been repurposed, how some things are not what you expect, and some of the plot twists are actually quite interesting, but it seems like sometimes they just take it a little bit too far. I'd recommend this for people who are just generally Fate fans. I watch it because I like Fate in general, but if you haven't watched Fate before or don't really care for it, then I think that you can just skip this with a good conscience. But jumping over now to a different genre entirely, we have gamers and Surusuru Children. They are romance anime. Let's start with Surusuru Children. On my anime list, I gave it 10. And you might be thinking, now hold on, that's just reserved for the absolute best of the best. And that's true, and most people probably wouldn't give this 10 because it might not be perfect, but the reason I gave it 10 there is I can't really find any significant flaws in it. I'm sure you can nitpick and find tiny things in it, but in the end, this is about whether or not you enjoy it. And I enjoyed the heck out of it. If you don't like this kind of anime to begin with, then you can't be helped. But I was quite interested in this anime to begin with, and it's freaking amazing. Now here's the rundown on what happens in this anime. You have a half episode series, which basically means that each episode is just half an episode long, so rather than the normal 24-ish episodes of a normal anime, it has about 12. This also includes, of course, opening ending, and as such you have about 10-ish minutes left to tell 4 stories, which each get about 2.5 minutes of airtime each. These are romance stories. They highlight a couple. Some are recurring, some are basically one-off, but they all show a small part of their life as a couple and in their romantic struggles. Some of them are sad, some of them are funny, some of them are awkward, some of them are just downright hilarious. But what it all boils down to in the end is that it feels real. Despite how much an anime can blow something completely out of proportion, Surusuru Children does that and still makes it feel real. These relationships could happen. Maybe not to such an extreme as shown here, but it still feels possible. And you cheer for these characters. You want to see them succeed because this feels like an actual possibility for you or your friends or someone else that you might know. It just feels completely real. It's an anime, of course, so of course it isn't, but it's still just uncanny how much attention to detail they have put into how human relationship works. If you like romance anime, just watch it. Just watch the heck out of it. Just watch all the episodes in one go. Since each episode half a normal episode, you can consider it like a 6-episode anime. Absolutely worth your time. Now there's also the other romance anime which I absolutely love, which is Gamers. Which starts off with the main character, who is a gamer, being invited to the gaming club at school, and he's like, oh, maybe this is the place I belong, maybe this is what I should do, and then we have him say, hey, no, sorry, I won't join. Now that just absolutely threw me for a loop, and I think everybody else who watched it as well. And from there on, just hilarity ensues and a lot of misunderstanding, and it goes quite meta on itself quite often. I don't want to explain it here to spoil it, because I just think you should watch it, especially if you like romance anime in general. At times it feels more like a classical rom-com, and it feels like it's kind of burying itself in tropes, but then it just pulls something out of its ass to make things completely wacky and unpredictable again. The one thing I find very unsatisfying is that we get to see some of the club members in the gamer club, and we don't really get much explanation about them, and we get to see some other characters who also just don't get any time in the spotlight. And it just feels weird, because we have this main 5 cast, and I get that they need the most of it, but I would like a little bit more information about the side cast. It just frustrates me a little bit, but it's still a really good show. So especially, again, if you like romance, definitely for you. Even if you just like classic rom-com, just sitcoms, whatever, just watch this. This is absolutely brilliant. Ends on a kind of unsatisfying note. I think that the last episodes should have been swapped, because they feel like almost out of order. But they did what they did, and all I can do is hope for a sequel, because I actually think this one deserves one. Now those were the shows that were self-contained within this season, or started this season at least. There are also shows that have continued from previous seasons. There are some that I'm watching that I've just been watching forever, like One Piece, but like nobody wants to hear my thoughts on that. The new installment of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is called Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains, recently started, and it's not overwhelming me yet. It's sort of interesting, but it hasn't really gotten me very interested yet. The characters feel so generic, and the duels are they just feel bad in some ways. But I'm in too deep to stop. I have to keep watching it, just like I've seen every other Yu-Gi-Oh! Series ever, and I'm not joking about that. I'm gonna keep watching that, but none of you need to bother with it, because if you have to catch up with it, it's like you have to watch like 800 episodes and then get to it. So just don't bother. Don't bother. If you're not already into it, don't bother. Naruto sequel Boruto started basically at the same time as Yu-Gi-Oh! And it has, at this point, long overstayed its welcome, because it's just bad at this point. I hope it gets better, because at the very beginning of the very first episode, it shows Boruto grown up, having a battle of some sort. It's devastation and chaos, and we all have to wonder, how did it come to this? And the answer is, oh, you'll find out in probably about 700 episodes. Because reasons. But I'm gonna stick with it and just hope it gets better. Now at this point you're probably wondering, why hasn't he mentioned Boku no Hero Academia yet, or My Hero Academia if you absolutely want it in English, but now I'm mentioning it and I'm gonna say it's awesome! Whereas the first season was more focused on just introducing everything, the second season was more focused on character development. Everything from the tournament to the hero killer arc and the exams, that was all just developing the characters. And we got more background story, and a third season has been announced. I am already hyped, and I'm just hoping it comes as soon as possible, but we probably have to wait about a year, but it's gonna be so worth it. Honestly, I think Boku no Hero Academia does something that other shonen anime should have done a long time ago. I wish Naruto did it, I wish Bleach did it, I honestly wish One Piece did it. I wish they put out the shows in season, because having it in seasons would mean that you'd have more time to work on the visuals, more time to properly just plan out how to present it, and just you could do a much better job overall, and you wouldn't have to keep doing it weekly. You could just take a break sometimes, work on something else maybe, and then you could just come back to it and show a really good version of what happens in the original material, and you can just be mind-blowingly good. Seriously, Boku no Hero Academia does this right. Rather than having to go week by week and always putting out something new, they just stop up and then they just make something to perfection and then they release it, and that's great. You know what's also great about it? Fillers are kept to a minimum. I mean, there was one filler, and that was when there were interns at hero agencies, and we got to see a lot of small clips of the other classmates just doing their things, but the most of it was about Tsuyu-chan, or Tsu-chan, or Froppy, if you prefer that. And it's a genuinely good episode, even if it is filler. I like it. So Boku no Hero Academia, one of the best things to come out this season. I say one of the best because my personal pick for favorite anime of this season and potentially of the year, Reef Creators. Now it has got a split reception, but mostly what I get is that the people who have seen all of it agree this is brilliant, and the people who watch just a little bit of it think, oh well, this is just gonna be the main character or getting all the girls and it's gonna be a harem and it's gonna be boring and generic and boring. Which is wrong. It's not harem in the slightest. The fact that two of the characters that are shown early on in the series and get to know the main character are female does not mean they're automatically love interests. That's what you have to get here. They are not love interests. It's something completely different and you just have to keep watching. It's kind of hard to explain in just one video without just spoiling everything, but just trust me, it's not a harem anime. And the action is out of this world, especially like in the final battle. It's really, really good. Even at the midway point when it has a recap episode, it just feels funny because they take liberties with it and they just have fun and screw around with it, and the storyteller in the background is one of the characters who's just being an asshole to everybody else, and it's just brilliant. You have to watch it. I say you have to. But before you go, oh hang on, you like this better than My Hero Academia? Yes. But that's a personal pick. If I was just saying to a crowd what anime they should watch from the season, I'd say My Hero Academia and be done with it, because My Hero Academia is just generally awesome, and I think it will appeal to a lot of people. Reef Creators to me is a little bit more personal, because even when it has all the great qualities I've listed to you that I think are just generally good, it also comes with a bit of a message for creativity and creative work, writing, drawing, making animations and anime. It goes so completely into the head of people that actually have to work with producing something creative. And there's so many things from it that I just think about and go, wow, that's something I actually haven't thought about before. And many of the characters actually have their own struggles when it comes to like, oh, I feel like I'm not good enough at drawing, I feel like I'm not good enough at writing, I don't feel like my work is good enough to show, and it just has really good messages surrounding these themes, and to me that actually means quite a lot. And so I would think that for creative people this is definitely a really good anime to watch, and you should watch it if you're doing any of this stuff. And that's why it gets my personal pick of favorite anime of the year. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna win that because, you know, Boku no Hero Academia existed, and so it basically has no chance against the masses, but my favorite pick is Reef Creators. Also, it has really good openings. Just tossing it out there. Search up Reef Creators opening, both 1 and 2 actually. Both are good. Just watch them, and if you haven't watched the show yet, just be amazed by the openings and watch the show. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an anime to watch that's called Mahotsukai no Yome, or otherwise known as The Ancient Magus Bride. It had an OVA series that had a new video added to it every 6 months, starting from like, I think it was September last year. And I watched the first one, was amazed by it, had to wait for the second one, was amazed by it, then came the third one, and shortly after that, the main series started airing. It's actually airing now. The newest episode has just come out as of me recording this. I'm gonna stop this, I'm gonna watch it, I'm just gonna toss that out there. Watch the OVA series of Mahotsukai no Yome, then start watching the main series because it's brilliant to no end. It's gonna be one of the anime I probably will recommend very highly in my next seasonal overview, unless something goes absolutely wrong with it. I'm just praying nothing does. But until that time and that video, please remember, I have been Anime Mixer 1, and I approve of this video.